So, welcome George to our new podcast episode, this time as you can hear in English, so our first episode in English. So we're super excited to have you here. And with that being said, I would hand over to you. Please present yourself and welcome to this podcast, first of all.
Guys, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. And I'm looking forward to talk to you about AI actually, because that's what I'm focusing on in 80/20. I'm working on artificial intelligence, both studying it, researching it, helping people to understand it, and also building applications on top of. And my previous work was I studied in UK, in Britain, and then I worked in consulting, and then investment banking. And I founded a startup in a security tokenization before, so crypto, very crypto.
Wow, that's super impressive already.
Blown away.
Maybe we can start off with a quote this time. If your friends or family were to quote you, what would they say?
Sorry, can you repeat that? Sorry.
Sure. What would they say? Your friends or your family members? What would they say about you? How would they quote you as a person?
I don't know. Probably nothing very nice. Probably something like, "Oh, he's a workaholic." We don't see him that much. But no, I do my stuff. So I do my part. I go to like the birthday celebrations and all these things, but. Yeah, I work a lot. I like to work.
Okay, all right. So since you're already doing like somewhat of a dive into the AI topics, and you already told us how you've come to 80/20 already, which would have been the second question that we would have asked you. So maybe let's go even deeper then already. So you said you are working in AI also. You built up your own startup. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do specifically in your recent startup, and what are you doing at 80/20?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I was working in investment banking, and then I was approached by a guy who's done very well in crypto. This was around 2017-18 when that was the previous crypto bubble, and he gave me the opportunity to start a company which would be focusing on security tokenization. So basically using blockchain as a representation of various financial instruments and assets thereof, as well as financial claims and cash flows. And so that was a new topic at that point, because that was a realization that blockchain is already there technologically, but there is no infrastructure and regulation for us to represent stocks or bonds or cash flows and assets, like for example real estate, on blockchain. And so it sounded extremely interesting to me, and also it was an amazing opportunity because I've traveled the world and went to speak to at many conferences, and really the work itself, if you ask that, was in practical sense was very much researching and doing a lot of lawyering in terms of understanding how different countries and their regulatory bodies are looking at blockchain, how one can actually, for example, issue a security under Swiss law, under Austrian law, under German law. The company was based in Switzerland, and it was an amazing experience. And also, based on top of that experience, or given that work that I've done, I also, find my place in 80/20, because 80/20 is very much involved in crypto and interested in crypto and doing many activities there. So that's why I joined 80/20 or 80/20 to continue in that pathway. But at that point, sometime last year, what happened is the AI Cambrian explosion. And so since that moment, I focused on artificial intelligence, like I said before, and mostly work on that.
You used many buzzwords like AI, crypto, blockchain, and since this is a pretty new topics, can you maybe briefly explain a little bit more about your background? because I'm pretty sure 10 or 15 years ago these words didn't even exist, or weren't even, they didn't even exist. So what is your background back in the days? So where do you come from? And maybe also another question, how did you gain that interest in these topics?
Yeah, so I'm coming from consulting background. So I worked in Britain. I worked in PricewaterhouseCoopers in international tax structuring, which very much is about researching tax legislation, helping companies to understand it, and devising optimization plans, and really advising companies on how to structure their operations internationally, for example. Now, in concept, that work is very similar to also researching financial regulation, understanding how financial regulation is changing and what, for example, blockchain means for it. And so in that startup I founded and worked on, what I've tried to do is, of course, to understand how companies are looking at blockchain, what regulatory frameworks they do have for blockchain or not, and how to go about it, and how to help companies or founders, if they want to issue securities on blockchain. If there is a specific word that I should explain or a term, then just let me know and I'll do.
Sure, I think we're good so far. Since we're talking about AI mostly, we all seem to know what AI is. So maybe let's change the perspective this time a little bit. What is not AI?
Okay, so what happened, you mean, last year? Yeah, so of course, we are in the middle of a real hype now, and everyone is talking about ChatGPT.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You would probably not be surprised. I mean, AI is not a new topic, of course. Artificial intelligence is here with us for decades, and there have been other bubbles before. But what happened last year is that large language models became surprisingly good, and almost so good that if you know how to use them well, they can make you much, much faster and just much better. And so what happened, I guess, on the basis of principles, what happened is that the technology or the method called large language models is, of course, nothing new and was there before. But OpenAI has come up with the idea, and actually they weren't successful with their previous endeavor and they had to pivot, which is why they started doing this. But they've come with the idea, how about, what if we make the large language model much bigger? What if we feed large language model with even more data and make the neural network even more larger? And that's what they did. And because they did it and built GPT 3.5, which is powering ChatGPT, as well as now GPT-4, they found, as well as the world has found, that the model can become so good that it's almost like general intelligence, that it doesn't just gives you mindless text, though it kind of does, but it actually does the thinking for you, and it is incredibly helpful. So that has happened last year, and since that moment, I think since, say, October 2020, we're just going. I mean, it's just really big. Some say it's bigger than internet. I personally believe it is, for reasons that I can explain. But the general thing is that, of course, artificial intelligence was already there before. Most of the techniques applied now have been invented a long time ago. But the realization has happened last year that if you make the large language model sufficiently large, then it becomes incredibly good.
And you mentioned these terms, ChatGPT 3.5 and 4.0. Can you briefly explain, what is the big difference between these two updates?
Exactly. Yeah. So ChatGPT, as we all know, that name is just an app. It's just a software website on top of large language model, and the large language model was, until a few weeks ago, GPT 3.5, and still is. But OpenAI has now also introduced GPT-4, which is even larger. Now GPT 3.5 is, I think, 175 billion network. So we should talk about neural network. But basically, the nodes connecting how words are estimated is 175 billion large. GPT-4, I don't know from top of my head how large it is, but it's multiples, hundreds of multiples of times larger.
Wow.
And so although the text that it has been trained on, GPT 3.5, GPT-4, is kind of the same, GPT-4 is much larger in terms of the network. And what we are finding out is that the larger the network is, the better the model is. And it's even so good that it's sometimes surprising what kind of questions it can answer and how it can almost reason like a human brain. And we're not yet sure why, but the theory, the best theory that people could come up with, this is really new, is that because the neural network is so huge, if you ask it things that it was not trained on, it, like in our brain, it is forced to create new neural circuits between the words, between the concepts, so that it actually almost like learns. It actually comes up with the answers for you.
That's crazy. Oh, wow. You also said that you think, AI is bigger than the internet, you just said, right? Can you maybe elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I love to. So, I mean, I don't think it's my personal opinion, like many people are saying that. So I guess it's good to know that the reason why ChatGPT became such a big thing is not because it's a good chatbot. If you use it if you go to ChatGPT and you talk to it as to a friend, it's not really great. It's nothing. But if you go to ChatGPT and understand how it works and use it for work, then it becomes incredible. And the reason why is that on the basis just of pure logic, ChatGPT doesn't know anything that wasn't on the internet before, just by definition, because it's just a download of internet in a large language model. So if you're looking for some specific answer to your question, if you have to write an essay on a complex topic, before ChatGPT, you would research 10 websites. You would go Google, index search, find 10 websites, read them, try to understand them, make that comprehension exercise, get a bit tired, so then next day you would open that those notes you would make, you would go further and you would research 10 more websites.
Totally.
Now the thing that ChatGPT does, and this is the important point, the thing that ChatGPT does is that when you ask it a question, write me an essay on this and this topic, 1,000 pages or 1,000 words, it takes all those websites that you would have to read and it flexes it, boxes it, and constructs it so that it answers exactly your question. And that's important because there is on the internet, there are many analogous problems solved to your problem, but you have to go, read, understand, and then flex it to your problem. But ChatGPT does that for you. And that's why it's 10 times, it makes you 10 times faster. It is incredible.
Yeah, it is.
That's absolutely mind-blowing, yeah. And are there any specific fields in the AI that you are personally super interested in?
I am, so I'm really working a lot on trying to build applications on top of large language models. And so one thing that is incredible is what we've talked about before, that we found out that, for example, GPT-4, which is the largest model, is actually really good at solving complex problems. And this can be both. If you, for example, take a section of the tax legislation in German and you paste it into GPT-4, and then you say, I have an income of 5,000 and I have a wife and I have no children, calculate tax for me, it actually does it.
Oh.
But even more importantly, if you ask it a complex question and then you say, look at this, you have access to calculator, you have access to internet, GPT-4 actually goes and uses these tools to give you the answer. And so, for example, what really interests me right now is I've built this experiment which is called Lana AI, and it's basically it's an app that has GPT-4 in it, connected to calculator, internet, Wikipedia, and Python terminal, so it can code. And so whenever you ask it a question, normal ChatGPT, like we've said before, what it does is if you ask it any question, it just bullshits you. It tries to construct text based on the probability, based on the download of internet. but it doesn't know every single detail of internet. It doesn't have a download of every document. It just has a blurry image of internet. And based on that blurry image, it is giving you answers, which are pretty good. But if you have ChatGPT, like Lana, which is connected to internet, if you ask it a question, it's like human brain. She literally goes through these tools and she thinks which is the best tool. And then, for example, you give her, hey, research 10 hot topics today, and then write me a podcast transcript. She literally goes to online, to internet. She finds some website where there are 10 hot topics. She takes that knowledge, she puts it to GPT-4, and she writes a transcript for you. So you can see that you can elevate this and you can connect to things you need, like API to Wikipedia or API to Crunchbase or API to German Company House or anything. And you can create basically almost like co-pilots for whatever job you have, which are essentially automating the entire work. You can literally create an app that does everything. So that's one thing. And then the other thing that is, I think, useful is that, like we said before, ChatGPT is very good because it constructs the knowledge specifically to answer your question. And so there is also a function on Lana that you can upload your documents, and it can be anything, a PDF, Excel, anything. And then what the app does is it scrapes text from the document. It creates a vector space representation of that, like ChatGPT does of the internet. And then when you ask Lana questions, she answers your questions based on the document you've uploaded. So imagine you are a tax consultant and you know that a new tax legislation has come out, which has 100 pages and it's a PDF. So you upload it to Lana and you start asking specific questions. Like, for example, my client has so many problems, and what do I not see? Or how would you solve this problem? And the ChatGPT, you have the ChatGPT power, but built on top of your document or your specific knowledge that you need to mine. So those are the kind of things that I feel like could be really helpful and very productivity boosting. So I'm really focusing on this.
Absolutely. I'm glad you talked about Lana. First of all, where did this name come from, maybe?
No, it's just a woman name. I like the drawing TV show Archer, and the lady spy there is called Lana. So I just thought I'm gonna call her Lana, but it's just a stupid name, and
okay.
You know, it's a representation of the engine underlying it, which again can be changed to any specific example. So
right.
You know, you can think of anything. If you for example, if you're an investment fund and you need automated junior analyst, you can connect this kind of engine to a database of companies and calculator and intranet, and you can give it specific tasks. So the point of the prototype is to show that you can essentially automate the entire workflow process to an extent, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And so to wrap it up, maybe did I did I understand it correctly? So I can basically upload my PowerPoint presentation into Lana and tell it to maybe redesign the whole presentation?
No, so what she does is she answers your question. It's like as if you had ChatGPT, but built on top of your presentation or built on top of your Excel or Word document or PDF.
Yeah. So just the analytics.
If you don't,
part.
If instead you want to, for example, Lana to create a PowerPoint presentation, that's also possible. You can tell research this and create a PowerPoint presentation. It will do that. But that's like those are like two separate modules.
Okay, I understand.
One is create a vector space and then answer questions, and the other is like generative.
Okay.
Yeah, and can you maybe tell us a little bit about Lana and the rollout now at 80/20 actually, because you are having sessions for the whole company now to really bring that to us and to the people so that we can use it now. Maybe can you just tell us a little bit more about your experiences there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, first of all, so maybe I shouldn't say because I'm part of 80/20, but 80/20 is a great company for giving you the freedom to do what you want. So like, because I become a little bit obsessed by this, I've been given the freedom to just go on nuts and just go on working on this, which I've done over a month now. And so, but in general, what I'm trying to do, I'm just having calls with people in 80/20 and trying to explain them exactly this. and then show them a couple of these like really early experiments, because I want to get some feedback and I want to see, because I am not actually working on client and they have the really hands-on experience with working on client workflows and knowing what their issues are. And so, you know, what I'm trying to do is to understand what we can solve with this for the clients. Like, okay, for example, there is a company that they know that every week they have to do the same kind of presentation, but they still have to do it manually because they always have to open some kind of a database, which is paid. They have to download some kind of a data. They have to understand it, comprehend it, and then create that presentation every week the same, every week, but it's still different. So why not try to automate it completely? Like, make it completely perfect automated. Why not try to do that? Or, for example, next generation chatbots. So why not create a chatbot that like large companies can actually afford to do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is not like, I'm not saying anything new. Zalando has just launched a chatbot that is powered by GPT-4.
Yeah.
Of course, but smaller companies cannot do this, or they will probably not do this. So why not do it for them? Why not create chatbots that have the power of GPT-4 such that when you ask her for a product, it talks to you like a buddy, it talks to you like your friend, but it also sits on top of the entire assortment of the products, and it gives you the best product, and it sells it to you so well that you want to buy it.
I mean, you mentioned automation quite a lot. What would you say to a person that says, hey, I think I'm afraid of AI, that it will replace me as a person and that I will lose my job in the near future?
I think what is happening right now is you can see startups rapidly reviewing what they're doing. It's crazy. Like, I've been building one app on a software platform called VoiceFlow, and in a week I could see that they but they changed how the technology works and they integrated large. So I think startups are working crazy now. They're doing internal audit and almost like redoing their pipeline because they are just like, wow, what's happening? Yeah. Well, larger companies, I've read this report by KPMG on a larger company. They've had a survey of more than 200 US executives. And what they found is that, I think this relates mostly to the larger companies, but like around 70% of the executives in these larger companies have not even identified yet a person who would look at AI and understand how to integrate it. So I think they're far behind. And I think probably everyone should a little bit speed up. But more importantly, in terms of the kind of the replacement, I think this is something that happens every time that when there is a new technology that people feel like it replaces a lot of their work. And in the end, it never happens because the new technology creates new demands and new wants that we cannot estimate. So like before internet, we didn't need e-commerce, right? We didn't, but now because we have internet for decades, e-commerce is an industry that employs millions of people. So it's really hard for us to say what will happen after LLM, after large language models, but it's probably safe to say that there will be new products and new services which will employ so many people. And we don't know yet because we don't see these demands, these products and services yet. But this is definitely what's going to happen. And I think it's good to stay abreast.
Of course.
Because in general, especially in larger companies, people often just don't because they don't feel the urge to. But I'm not saying it's bad, but maybe it's wiser to stay abreast with technology because otherwise, yes, new technology can be disruptive. And it's good to at least understand it and read about it and try to use it.
Very well. You mentioned earlier already that you could ask Lana for some input for a podcast episode, and of course we did. So there comes maybe 2 questions from Lana. Now maybe this is our third interview partner now. So the first one would be...
What did we ask Lana, maybe, first of all?
What did we ask Lana?
Yep.
Oh, interesting and unique questions for a podcast. Yes. So she asks, how can we ensure that AI systems are transparent and accountable, especially when they are making decisions that affect people's lives?
Yeah. So I think this is a topic that is being discussed ad infinitum right now.
Yeah.
No, ad nausea, they say. And I think it really is. And I think people are not getting it.
Yeah.
So people are using ChatGPT as the source of truth. And that's really wrong.
That's wrong, yeah.
I mean, you should not go to ChatGPT and ask it for facts. I mean, you can, and it usually, like 90%, it gives you good facts. But if it doesn't know the facts, it has to make up something because it's a large language model. So you can do two things. Both. One is you can always say, if you don't know, say you don't know. Don't lie to me. And second, what that you should do is understand that it's always better if you ingest your factual information into ChatGPT. So for example, you give it a context. For example, you're working in a bank and you need it to research a new regulation. So you say, act as if you were a bank manager in this and this department. You now need to research this. I'm going to paste below the text that you need to research. And please research it and give me blah, blah, blah. And then you ingest your facts. Don't use it as an index search engine. It's a thinking machine. And this is also why I'm excited to do stuff like Lana, because Lana is that, right? Lana is going out to various tools and sources to get the facts from static database, from static information, and then it uses LLM just as a thinking machine to construct something that is actually powerful. So I think people should understand that they should, and I think this is, and this is generally, right? Regulation always gets a little misguided and a little bit behind. But I think regulators in general should, and people in general should understand that they should not hate or worry about ChatGPT because it should not be used as a source of truth. It's a thinking machine. You should ingest your information into it and then ask it to think for you, because you will still think, but you will have another free brain that comes to different conclusions with different reasoning. You can compare how you think and you can become that much better and that much faster.
Yeah, super interesting. Maybe the second question that Lana gave us is also very interesting. What role can AI play in addressing some of the world's biggest problems, such as climate change or poverty?
I think, like any technology, it will make us all more productive. So it's actually like we are all talking about inflation for a year now. And the inflation has been caused by both the awful, terrible, catastrophic war. But it has also been caused by just the bottlenecks and bad management after COVID. Because during COVID, we were ordering everything and supply chain just got disrupted. And now we're living that because everything in economy has 1 year delay. And so we are all talking about inflation, but that inflation will be solved at some point. And in the end, it's the technology and working and doing things more efficiently that makes us deflationary and that makes us more efficient and better. And I think AI, if it's going to be used properly, is going to be an incredible productivity booster. And to be honest, the West really needs some productivity boost right now. So I think it's good that it's happened now and that it's going to be happening now, because we need something new, and I think this is the new thing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. This is definitely something super interesting. I'm super impressed by us having, or for your work first of all, because you created Lana. I'm super super excited to see what Lana will provide us. Yeah, totally, because it can definitely make us more efficient, make us more powerful, better not only as a person but also as a company,
and also have an impact on society and everything, basically.
Totally, as you said, it will make us more powerful and even better, but it has to be used in the right way. So maybe let's come to an end, unfortunately, but we can hear your passion, your excitement about this topic, and I really like it. It's amazing. And maybe to finish it up, what is your personal ideal digital future? How does it look like?
So I'm not sure, but I think one thing that is safe to say is that a lot of our work, also harder type of work where we need to use a lot of mental energy and thinking will be automated. And I think that there will be much more software, because until now it was very hard to code, and it's getting rapidly easier. Thanks to things like Copilot, if you start coding, you can see that it makes you way faster. And I think in general, software, there is lack of software almost, because it's hard and expensive to make it. So I think what we will see is that there will be a rapid digitalization of everything, and you will have a lot more software and code surrounding your life, but in a good way, in a way that, as digitization, for example, makes us super fast in terms of navigating, because there is, like, we cannot even imagine that we had to, at some point before, we had to open a map other than Google Maps or Apple Maps. That same digitization will be much more prevalent in many other things, whether it's searching for information, or shopping, or just going around daily life. So I think there will be rapid proliferation of software all around us, which is way more powerful.
My dad actually, he prefers opening a real map instead of a smartphone still. But no, maybe also to sum it up at the end, 2 interesting facts. We also asked Lana about AI, so I will end it up here. AI is expected to contribute up to 15.7 trillion to the global economy by 2030. This is, I think, a very super interesting fact. And maybe one more fact from your side.
Well, I was just reading the next one. I guess I'm going to read the next 2 actually. So the next one was, in a recent study, 69% of Americans said they were uncomfortable with the idea of self-driving cars, and I didn't want to end on that one. So that's why I'm reading the last one as well. The use of AI in healthcare is expected to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 42% between 2020 and 2027, which just really contributes to the things that we discussed earlier, is, I think, a good ending on a positive note, so that we can really use Lana and every other AI systems to create a better world on that. And then maybe your famous last words.
I would just say that everything you said is true. I mean, there will be more and more integration, but we should also understand the risks. So specifically when we talk about these automatons that will, for example, have access to our emails and calendars, etc. So they will work perfectly, but they are also very easy to get disrupted by bad actors. So because it's a program, it works perfectly and it looks like it's reasoning like human brain, but at the same time, if you prompt it, if you send it something which you know what you're doing, it can do very, very bad things. So we should be also careful about this and be mindful of this, and just in general know that human mind is probably not replaceable, right? So there will always be need for us.
Hopefully, yes.
But using this tech will be better.
Perfect. Thank you so much for recording this podcast episode with us. It was super interesting, and
thank you for your passion, for your excitement about this topic, and we're looking forward to what's to come in the future. So thank you, George.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for the time. Really appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.